Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
Conceive, believe, achieve. Shut the f*** up.
And new undisputed UFC Middleweight Champion of the world, Michael the Count Bisping.
This is Believe You Me on the Gas Digital Network.
What's up, everybody? How we doing? Welcome back to the Believe You Me podcast. Yes, we didn't put a show on yesterday, but before you all start and abuse me in the comment section, you know, I have a job, I have a life, I have obligations to the UFC, etc., etc. As you can see now, I'm in a hotel room. Harrington, we'll get to in a second, but I just adjusted the light, and now the sun has come out from behind a cloud, so I'm turning into a White Walker in front of your very eyes. But Harrington, how the hell are you, buddy?
I mean, I'm doing good, other than the fact that I'm seeing a ghost right now.
Well, we're probably going to go behind a cloud again. So bollocks. I'm not adjusting. We're sticking with this setup. Yes, I am in Orlando, Florida. Big fight card this weekend. We'll get into that one in just a little bit. You ever flown a red eye, Harrington?
I have, actually. That's where I've met the most celebrities in my life.
Oh, really? Interesting. Why is that?
I don't know. I guess like celebrities like taking red-eye flights. There's not as many people on there to bother them, so they'll give you a second to like take a picture and sign an autograph or whatever. So
interesting theory. Interesting theory. So for those, because I think red-eye, I think it's only an American term. You know what I mean? So for anyone that doesn't know, it means an overnight
we're the only
flight.
country big enough.
Well, yeah. Well, no, Australia. You know, I'm sure there's Russia. There's a lot of China. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot of big countries out there.
We're learning geography this week.
Yeah, exactly. I almost had a Brendan Sharp moment and said Africa, but that's a continent. No, I'm in Florida. So a red eye is an overnight flight. So I had some filming to do yesterday for the UFC, and that's why I couldn't do it yesterday. And then they were going to fly me at 1:00 in the morning to Orlando via Houston, right, which was a nightmare. When I landed, I felt like absolute shit. But still, there we go. I'm here in Orlando. I'll tell you, Kevin Holland is the main event versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. What a guy that is. The reason I'm bringing that up is because we know he's got a big personality. He's very entertaining in his fights, in his, you know, he talks. I was watching him versus Joaquin Buckley yesterday. The UFC shared a thing. And he's talking to Joaquin. He's telling him to wipe the booger from his nose at all times and stuff, and like giving him a pep talk through the fight. Anyway, I got in the gym last night to try and just like run off some of the jet lag or whatever. And Kevin Holland's in there cutting weight with all of his team. And I'm on the treadmill for about 40 minutes, just nice and slow. I'm not fucking breaking any records. That's for damn sure. And he is the most joyous person cutting weight. I'm telling you, cutting weight's a miserable thing. Kevin Holland was singing at the top of his voice the entire time. Then he was rapping, then he was singing, and then he's walking out. I see you, Maggie B. I see you, Bisping. And I'm like, this fucking guy, you know, the energy from Kevin Holland is unbelievable.
Like, and this is a guy who used to fight at 185, right? So this is now a 15-pound greater weight cut than he was making just a year and a half ago. And he still is keeping a sunny disposition. That's crazy to hear.
Yeah, no, it is. And I asked him when I got in, I said, how many? He said like 8-9 pounds, not too bad. Let me tell you, trying to sweat out 9 pounds when no doubt he's already done some is bloody miserable. Big fight tomorrow, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Kevin Holland. I'm commentating. I can't make a prediction, obviously. That wouldn't be right. But Harrington, last time I checked, you're not commentating. I'm going to ask you for the analysis, for the Mike Harrington breakdown. How do you see this fight, my friend?
I mean, come on, man. This is a rough spot to put me in late in the week. But I mean, look, if Kevin Holland does seem like the type who will just stand and strike with Stephen Thompson, right? Kevin Holland's not going to break out a bag of tricks. And anytime we've seen people willing to stand and strike with Stephen Thompson, those people get beat. I mean, I don't know. It's rough because Stephen Thompson is so like he, you know, long in the tooth or later on in his career, but he does still look like a young man. He's still moving. He's still very active. He still is able to cut the angles. He's always been able to cut. I don't know. There is something about Kevin Holland's very unique striking, though. That's like, man, maybe that could present a problem on the feet and not have to go to wrestling and get a signature win over Wonder Boy, at which point now we're talking about another contender at 170.
Yeah, no, listen, that's one thing about Holland. He does have a very unorthodox style. On that clip with Buckley yesterday, I saw a clip. He kind of jumps in the air and does like a leaping hammer fist, which, let's be honest, unless you're playing Street Fighter 2 or something, that's not a move that you see generally. But I love the fact that he'll go there. This fight card from top to bottom, I'm just looking at it now, opens with Eric Anders versus Kyle Dawkins. That's a good fight. This is the main card. Jack Hermanson, Roman Dolidze, Taito Avasa, Sergey Pavlovich. We talked about that on Monday. Rafael Dos Anjos versus Brian Barberina in the co-main event. It is a sick fight card. It's stacked. And of course, it's going to be in Orlando, Florida. Very beautiful place. Well, I say beautiful. I haven't been out. I mean, the weather's beautiful, but we're going to have probably close to 20,000 people in the arena. So it's going to be nice to feel that energy, as opposed to the Apex, which is awesome. I love that, but it's going to be great in front of a crowd.
That's awesome. I think you did the Columbus card, right?
Yes.
Okay, so it's like that. What is that like? Because obviously everybody gets hyped for a pay-per-view, but fight nights were always a thing where it's like, the UFC's coming to Long Island, or the UFC's going to Rochester, New York, a place they normally doesn't have like these kind of big, massive sporting events. So for something like this in Orlando, like is there like buzz going around, and are you expecting the place to be as raucous as, let's say, Jackson?
Yeah, no, always. I mean, anytime the UFC comes to town, people get hyped up for it, and this year, or certainly since we've come out of the pandemic, when we went to London, every time it's been sensational. Paris, obviously, that was the first ever one there. Columbus. It seems now these kind of, even though the fight nights, they do kind of stack the cards. It's not quite pay-per-view. They haven't got a couple of championship fights on, but they have a lot of star power, brand value. The fans are pumped. They're in the building, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But yes, Harrington?
I was just going to say, that's what this card feels like. This card feels like the diehard's wet dream, right? This is every single matchup on this card is like, it's something my friends and I at a bar would be talking about fantasy booking. Brian, who do you think would win? Brian Barberina versus RDA. Like, that's such a fun fight that means nothing, but it's so awesome for the fans.
Well, I'm sure if you spoke to Rafael Dos Anjos, or Rafael, should I say, he wouldn't say that the fight means nothing, Harrington. Shame on you. It means nothing. Wow. He has toiled in the gym. Blood, sweat, and tears. He has pushed his body to the limit. The man is a veteran of the sport. He has given so much. But this fight means nothing, you say?
Okay, so this fight obviously means something for Brian Barberina, for Rafael Dos Anjos, for the people's
families. No, it only means something for Brian. It only means something for Brian, not for Dos Anjos.
I said Dos Anjos. Look, the point I'm making is, though, like for the rankings, Rafael himself said, pull me out. I'm never fighting for a title again. Those aspirations are done. This is like that next bracket that Jim Miller was talking about maybe a year or so ago, right? Like that Legends bracket. That's what the fans love. That's what got me to be a diehard fan of this sport. Fights like this.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I'm always only teasing. Dos Anjos is right. I mean, we had this conversation kind of recently, so I don't want to go over old ground, so to speak. But yeah, Dos Anjos is right. The people that he fought, Kamaru, Colby, Leon Edwards, all these guys back to back to back. And he said, listen, I'm never going to be the welterweight champ or whatever it is. Don't give me those caliber fighters anymore. I'm towards the end of my career. Let's have some fun. Let's put on a show, make some money, and entertain the fans. And that is what him versus Brian Barberina will do. However, I can't make picks. It is a sick fight card, but Harrington, throw a bit of mixed martial arts news, a little trivia, a little, I don't know, I want to say a little Paddy the BADDY getting called out by a certain YouTuber.
I don't know if it was exactly that way. Paddy himself started off the conversation saying that while he is impressed by Jake and thinks he's grown leaps and bounds, he does believe that his fights are fixed. He referenced that same angle that Brian did, where it looks like he didn't connect with Anderson before Anderson went down. Jake Paul took he took umbrage to that. Essentially just said, look, I'll put $1 million on the line, right? You come spar me. Let's see how fake this is. If I win, you get $1 million. Or if you win, you get $1 million. If I win, you got to join my thing.
Yeah. Well, you can't blame Jake, to be honest. for being a little annoyed at that, because Paddy's not correct there. Yes, there was that one video, and I know the one he's referencing, where it looked like the punch didn't connect. But then you see that there is other ones, and I don't know how that came around, whether or not that was doctored or whatnot. But yes, Brian?
It was just a bad angle, because we got that other angle where he clearly got punched in the face.
Exactly. And there's no way on this earth, that Anderson Silva's going to do that. I'm sorry. Anderson's old. He's a legend. He's had a great career. He got beat by Jake. So obviously Jake's going to say that. Said, I'll fly you down to Puerto Rico. I'll send the jet and I'll give you $1 million. Of course, Paddy is going to accept that. This is what we do as fighters. We spar. We look for the best sparring possible, right? And the last time I checked, generally, people don't get maimed or hurt or die in a sparring match. Sometimes you might have a sparring match and go, whoa, that was a bit rough. I've been dropped a couple of times in sparring matches and whatnot. But if someone's going to give you $1 million and send a G5 and fly you to Costa Rica, sign me up, brother. So, of course, Paddy said he'll do it, but he's got the fight. So he said, come down to the Performance Institute. Careful what you wish for, though, because Jake's bigger. Paddy's, of course, going to go on. Jake's bigger. I don't think, it would be okay for Paddy, but I think he might come out of that one with maybe a bust nose or two. Certainly, if Jake's going to pay him $1 million, I know if I give you $1 million for a sparring match, you were going to earn every penny, Harrington.
So I think the $1 million only exchanges hands if Paddy can beat him in the sparring match. So I don't know who
really.
judges.
I never saw that. Is that what they said?
I believe that was the agreement, was $1 million to Paddy if he wins, and then Paddy has a forfeit on his side if Jake wins. So Jake did factor in the fact that Paddy's going to have to make the weight cut down to 155. He set a new date, said January 5th. You've got time to balloon back up to Paddy, your regular weight, which is closer to where Jake boxes at, and then he'll fly him down to Puerto Rico at the beginning of the year for the sparring match.
I see. Well, it gives it lets Paddy have his fight and lets him focus on that, and it also gives him a fun little excursion. Did you say down to Costa Rica again?
Puerto Rico.
Oh, pardon me. Yeah, it's all the Ricos. You know what I mean? I'm the Ricas. Yes, Brian.
So he's trying to get to fight Fat Paddy. Like, that's not a man who fights. Fat Paddy.
Exactly. Fat Paddy, out of shape Paddy, post Christmas Paddy. You know what I mean? And Paddy closer to his weight. But hey, if I'm Paddy and he sounds like he's going to do it, I take that all day. $1 million, a private jet to Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico. The Ricas and the Ricos. I can't keep up today. I had 2 cups of coffee here in Orlando. I'll tell you one thing. Their coffee is strong. Holy shit. I've had 2 coffees. I've got the shakes. I'm all over the place. And by the way, talking of shakes and all over the place, I did see the comment section. I was all over the place on Monday's show. I was not feeling good. I was not myself. I had a blazing headache. I couldn't focus. I couldn't... it was an off show. So you all noticed, but there you go. I had I couldn't deliver my usual greatness. What can I tell you?
Pause. I'm gonna. You still incredible show, top to bottom. I am 100% will stand by Monday's show being a classic BYM episode. So even your flu game, you're delivering.
No, it felt like shit. I knew afterwards, and then I saw a few comments. I'm like, I can't even watch it because I was off my game. I may have been a little under the weather, possibly self-induced. You know what I mean? Maybe I did it to myself. Maybe I indulged a little bit. But anyway, what else is going on with Paddy? I hear he's making some other headlines.
So this is going to be his first pay-per-view. And now, thanks to some shakeups on the card, most notably, obviously, Yuri falling out with the shoulder injury, which elevated the co-main event. The new co-main event is going to be Paddy Pimblett. He says when they asked him about it, is there any kind of pressure or anything? He says, I was the people's main event anyway. I feel bad for half the other people on this card because all the attention is going to be on me.
No, I mean, it sounds somewhat reminiscent of a certain Conor McGregor entering the game, doesn't it? Do you know what I mean? And he did actually mention a fight with Conor this week as well, saying that would be the biggest fight the UFC's ever done. I mean, God bless him. He's doing the right thing. You know, he's getting headlines. He's talking shit. And, you know, it's probably not too far off the truth, because this pay-per-view, whilst it's stacked and there's great fights, and I'm going to be there in the building with Rebecca, so I'm excited for that. It hasn't got, you know, the big, massive marquee names on. Yeah, of course, there's a great title fight and some amazing fights. Can't wait for Darren Till versus Dricus du Plessis. We'll talk about all that next week with Anthony on the show, of course, so we'll save that talk for then. But yeah, as I say, it hasn't got the massive, the biggest stars, even though it's a sick card. So I understand Paddy saying that, you know, he's trying to get garner headlines. He might ruffle feathers with some of the other fighters. I'm not sure Taito Avasa is going to take too kindly to that, because Taito Avasa, Sergey Pavlovich, I cannot fucking wait for that fight. Paddy's doing the right thing, man. Making headlines. He's just going to show up and fight Jared Gordon, you know. I don't think he's underestimating Jared Gordon, because he's at that phase in his life now where it's not about the fight. It's not about the opponent. It's about the journey to the top. So every fight, regardless of how tough, for want of a better word, or difficult an opponent it might be, you've got to push yourself. You've got to improve every single camp, because his quest is to become a champion, I'm sure. So it's not about training camps for certain opponents. It's about you getting the best version of yourself. Jared Gordon, that's going to be a tough one now. I'm telling you, Jared's going to make it difficult for him. He's a tough guy to beat.
So when does that flip typically? Like for a fighter, right? You're trying to establish yourself, make a name in the UFC. You're trying to become the best version of yourself. At what point does it flip? Is it like top 15, top 10, top 5, where you start, I need to game plan for this guy specifically, because this fight, winning this fight puts me this close to a title? Yeah.
Well, I mean, Paddy's had 3 fights in the UFC now, and he's done fantastic. You know, he's smashed it. He's got stoppages in all of them. I think all in the first round, potentially. Maybe one went to the second. Regardless, can't do better than that, you know. But he's still fighting, you know, with respect to the fighters, both of them. You know, some lower level competition. He knows that. You know, so you got to prepare for the longer eventuality, which is fighting the bigger names, the top 10s, the top 5s. So right now, as I say, he shouldn't be preparing specifically for this opponent. Of course, you prepare for them specifically, but the back of your mind, you are trying to improve your all-round overall skills, you know, because you want to be the champion, you know. So I remember when I had 3 fights in the UFC, what was it? It was Eric Schaefer, Elvis Sinasek, and then it was Matt Hamill. After that, I fought Rashad Evans. So it starts jumping up quickly. He's fighting Jared Gordon in his 4th, you know. So there's not necessarily a shift where it's like, ding, you get to a certain level. But in the early days, you're just trying to improve as much as possible in each and every way, you know, because it's a tough old road, as one Charles Olivera knows. See that segue? See that segue? I mean, come on. Okay, let's talk about fit bod. Listen, people go to the gym. You want to get results. Sometimes it's boring. Sometimes you don't know what to do. You know, sometimes people say, get a personal trainer. Well, they can be very, very expensive. But now, for less than the cost of one session with a personal trainer, you can get a full year of personalized workouts with Fitbod. Fit exercise into your schedule. You know, do it anytime you want. Fitbod is an app for your phone, and the smart workout app that creates custom dynamic exercise programs based on your goals, experience, equipment, and then it varies your routines. So one, you don't get bored, you don't overtrain, and then you've always got something new to do. It has an algorithm which uses data and analytics to scientifically build your best next workout and maximize results. It tracks all your progress for you. You can see muscle usage, recovery, achievements, and workout streaks right there in the app. You are in control of it, which workouts work for you. They are designed just for you, so you get exactly what you need, right? So, by the way, this is for Android. This is for iPhones, iOS. It's a very, very easy app to use. Also, it has 4K video there. So the exercises, it breaks it down. It shows you how to do it. So if you're working out by yourself, if you don't have a gym partner to go to, if you just need a bit of inspiration for the gym, this is the app that's for you. And of course, we have a tremendous deal. It's less than the cost of a personal trainer, less than the cost of one session, right? You can track all your progress, gives you inspiration, gives you workouts. And even you can do stuff at home. You can do stuff in the gym. It'll give you workouts down the park, different types of runs, all kinds of stuff. This is a great little tool to have on your phone. Trust me, if you want to stay in shape, if you want to get inspired, then this is for you. So right now, keep that workout momentum going. Go to fitbod.me/believe. You're going to get 25% off your subscription, or you can try out the app for free. Again, when you sign up at fitbod.me/believe, 25% off your subscription, or you can try it out for free. It's pretty good. fitbod.me/believe. Harrington, Charles Olivera in the news this week.
So Charles Olivera, his coach came out and said that he was offered an immediate rematch against Islam Makhachev for the UFC's return to Brazil for UFC 282. Olivera said, or 283, sorry. Olivera, as coach, said it's not a physical thing. He's not injured. He's physically fine. He needed a break. Mentally, he was just drained.
I get it. I get it. Fighting those magnitudes of fights. See, that's what I'm talking about there. Paddy's getting ready for, his opponent, but also the journey. Charles has had that monumentous journey, and he's done it for years and years and years. And then just look up while I'm talking, Harrington, the schedule in the last year or even 2 years. How many fights has Olivera had? Because I know he had a busy schedule, and those fights, getting ready for 5-rounders, flying to press conferences, fighting in world championship level fights. You've got so much press to do. You got to get ready for a 5-round opponent. The media demands upon you when you're the champion or in a title fight are absolutely ridiculous. Is this the last year?
So I have from March 2020, right? Remember that pandemic card in Brazil? He fought Kevin Lee, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier, Justin Gaethje, and Islam Makhachev. 6 fights in those 3-year stretch. So 2 fights a year.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, we're only just at the start of 2022. So, 6 fights, it's tough, man. I mean, that's a lot of fights for a champion caliber fighter. But again, on the body, it's tough. But mentally, it's draining. It's fucking draining. That's the hardest part. You know what I mean? It's just there's so much expectancy on you, not only from the organization, because obviously, as I said, you got to promote it. You got to do the countdown shows. They're coming to your gyms. They're coming to your house. It never ends. And then going about in your personal life, going to a restaurant, going shopping, going to the park with your kids or whatever, there's the fan interaction, which is beautiful. And it's so nice to be appreciated, but it does sap the mental energy a little bit. So when you combine it all together, the promotion, the filming, the fan interaction, the training, at home, then the sleepless nights, thinking about it. First thing you think about in the morning is your opponent, your training, what you're going to do that day, your diet. You can't eat what you want to do. All this stuff, it's exhausting. So I understand, hey, he lost to Islam, fair and square, I add. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he made a mistake. He got beat by Islam. It's like, why do I want to rush immediately right back into that? Why do I want to go straight back into that high pressure cooker, stressful life? I might as well take a little time. I haven't got the belt right now. Okay, I'm going to have a little bit of time off. I'm going to have some time with my family. I'm just going to be Charles Olivera for a little bit and enjoy the spoils of the last 2 years or the journey that I've been on forever. Do you know what I mean? Because he has a right to do that. And let's be honest, when he does decide, whenever that is, to come back, he's still right there. He's still one of the top dogs. He's still not far off. So he doesn't have to take it straight away. I get it. As some fans hearing that he turned it down might go, oh, he's intimidated by Islam. He doesn't fancy his chances in a rematch. Of course he does. Every fight is different, but just mentally, I get it. And I don't blame him one little bit.
Well, 2 title defenses at 155, got the immediate rematch offered to him by the promotion, which is pretty awesome. But I was going to ask you, as somebody who had to deal with this, right? You lost your belt, and then we're back in there, what, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later? Like, I'm saying, if you were
but that
in
was
that
different.
position, okay.
That was different, Harrington. Obviously, I had a, realistically, we all know I shouldn't have even been in there in the first place, and I knew when I lost my belt, I'd pushed this ride of deceit and having one eye quite a long way. Do you know what I mean? And I even remember when I got the title fight, Rebecca was like, are you going to retire, after this fight? I'm like, well, if I lose, I'll retire because, I'm not going to fucking work my way back up with one eye. Do you know what I mean? But if I win, you're out of your mind. And I won, and I had a defense, and then I had a super fight at Madison Square Garden, and then I lost. And I was like, well, you don't understand the stress that was involved, and I'm not going to go into too many details for obvious reasons. Getting cleared to fight at Madison Square Garden, I had to leave my family in Hawaii to come back to have a little sketchy under the fucking carpet, little sneaky surgery to try and seem a little bit more better to get through the examinations and stuff, because I used to have this huge drain in my eye. In this one, I used to have this big fuck off. Remember that thing I used to have, that big plastic drain? I'm like, it wasn't serving a purpose anymore. That was in case the glaucoma came back. And I'm like, well, if I'm going to get cleared by these doctors, the last thing I need is a fucking big giant piece of plastic bulging out the corner. I'm like, that's not serving a purpose anymore. Let's get rid of that. I had to leave Hawaii, leave my family there, get that done. I had to jump through so many hoops. I had to sign disclaimers. I had to fucking do all kinds of stuff. I'm saying too much, So when I lost the belt, I'm like, this is done. And then there came an opportunity when Anderson pissed hot. I'm like, fuck it, come on, one for the road, let's go. So very, very different circumstances to Charles Oliveira.
Okay, so yeah, there's 100% difference there. But I was going to ask, like, if you could, right? If you had the option and we're like, okay, I've got maybe like the Glover Teixeira position where it's like, all right, I've got maybe 2 or 3 fights left in me. You lose your belt. Like, would you have liked to have taken that time, or was there something in you that was like, I just lost this belt, I want to fight somebody right now?
Yeah, well, I appreciate you asking me the question, Harrington, and I think I probably. I don't know. It just depends how you feel, But we'll steer the conversation away from me with respect. I appreciate you asking me questions, but people don't want to hear me going on about me. They want to hear about the best fighters that are currently competing in the world. And they want to know some things. What's going on with Artem Lobov and Conor McGregor? Is there any developments in that regard?
Speaking of $1 million sparring match, Conor McGregor says, meet me at SBG Concord and we'll fight for the whole lot. Screw your 5%. Screw all this. Just come meet me one-on-one, mano-a-mano, put the lawyers to bed. Let's fight it out.
Hey, Brian, I know as I'm just dropping this on you, see if you can pull up the audio, because the audio, Conor's voice notes, I got to say, they're very entertaining. I do like listening to a Conor voice note, whether or not I'm the subject of attack or not. I mean, they always bring a little smile to my face. Do you know what? To be honest, I don't blame Conor in this regard. I don't blame him one little bit. It's. I mean, we don't know exactly what's going on behind closed doors. We don't know the situation. We don't know if Artem has gone to Conor as a man and said, "Hey, listen, I helped you come up with a name." Apparently, let's just take Artem at face value. If he says what he says is true, that it was his idea, he gave him the name, he introduced him to some people and all this type of, let's just assume that's true for 1 second. And I'm sure there's 2 sides to every story. There always is. But let's assume that's true. Even if that is true, and let's assume that he hasn't done what I'm about to say, you should go to him as a man and sit him down and say, hey, Conor, I need to talk to you, just me and you. It's a pretty serious matter. And say, listen, mate, I feel like I deserve something. I feel like, you should kick me something. You should give me a little kickback. You should give me a percentage of future revenue, whatever it is. We need to come to some kind of deal, and maybe he did do that. But if he didn't do that, and his first course of action as a friend, as Conor being someone that had his back, that always had his back, listen, I'm not the type of guy that's the biggest cheerleader for Conor, but I look at facts. he has been a loyal friend to Artem over the years, you know, so to just come out the blue with a lawsuit, if that is how it happened, I don't blame him for being angry and saying, let's settle this the old-fashioned way. Let's get down the gym, you know. I'm not sure if it's the smartest thing for Conor. I'm not sure if that will have ramifications as this lawsuit continues. I wasn't talking about the fight. You pulled your face there when I said not sure the smartest. You went as if to say, correct, Artem's the GOAT. He cannot take the GOAT. No, I'm just talking about, I'm not sure if talking about a legal lawsuit in voice notes on Twitter is the best course of action, but he probably didn't say anything too incriminating, and we're all allowed to get annoyed here and there. Brian, cues the tape.
You're dead tired, pal. You can see it in your eyes, you're fucking bollocks, mate, yeah? You're absolutely bollocks, yeah, God bless you. Into the lab with you for a little bit of rest, mate, yeah? Because you're fucking fucked, yeah, God bless you.
That wasn't the tape.
Sorry, that's the one I came up when I Googled Artem Lobov, Conor McGregor audio, but
I have no idea what that was.
He needs an intervention for sure.
He needs.
I'll look for it.
You're okay. It doesn't matter, Brian. The ship has sailed. It's okay. It's not a deal breaker. You've still got a job. But yeah, listen. I don't blame Conor for being annoyed there. I really don't. But as I say, we don't know all the details, Harrington.
No, but I do know that. I mean, I think Anthony might have mentioned this, but you know, he's mentioned Artem a number of times before that Conor offered him money time and time again for this. And, you know, Artem has said no. And that, like, I was talking to Paul Felder about this when he was in New York. Like, that always blew my mind. Why wouldn't Artem just take a couple of bucks for this thing? And Artem took it as a point of pride. Like, no, he's my training partner. I've never charged him for training sessions. He's never charged me. We're brothers. Like, that's what our friendship means. So money should never be changing hands. So to go from that to this, if there wasn't that conversation where Artem was like, all right, look, man, like you offered me money before, let's make it this. And Conor said, you know, get bent, then I could see a lawsuit. But this doesn't sound like that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to ramp on about their lawsuit too much. That's why I was trying to change the subject there. But hey, listen, if Conor offered him money, from my perspective, he should have taken it. He should have taken it and said, thank you very much. And if he didn't take it, he shouldn't really be going back later on and saying, I'm going to sue you now. You know what I mean? You know, that's not really how that works. But still, anyway, this was quite a shocking confession from a referee, Harrington, that you put in the notes, and well found, because I wasn't aware of this one. I'll let you set it up. But this is quite the confession from a boxing referee.
Yeah, it was kind of wild. He did like a 35-40-minute interview while he was being inducted into the WBC Hall of Fame for referees. And he talked about an instance early on in his career where he admitted to cheating a bit on behalf of Manny Pacquiao. So it was a bout between Manny and Nadal Hussein. Both guys were on the come up. Both were like 17, 19-0, like younger guys in I think it was junior featherweight title they were fighting for. Yeah. The ref admits to going long on a 10 count, right? He says, I know how to milk a count. So he was able to go a little bit longer and give Manny some time to get up, let Manny get his head clear before he put him back in there. And then after that happened, because Manny was the shorter fighter, he headbutted his opponent, which opened up a big cut. And the ref just scored that as like, yeah, that was a punch that did that. And then eventually the Pacquiao got the knockout in the 11th round.
Don't you think it's a little shady that he's doing this now? Like, you think, is it the guilt that's getting it, or is he trying to write a book?
Well, that's actually a very good question, Brian. But the thing is that really stuck out to me on the notes, Harrington, is that this boxer was an undefeated boxer, right? And then just give the records and the record after the fight. 19-0.
Lost this fight, won his next 17 bouts.
So that would mean 36 plus that one. So he would be 37-0. 37-0. Instead, he's 36-1, if my math is correct. That is disgraceful. It's disgraceful for a referee to do that, you know. And I'm sure Manny Pacquiao had nothing to do with it. I'm sure there was no collusion or whatever. But he purposely extended the count, did a slow count so that Manny could recover. I mean, it's a good job that he's retired, because if he wasn't, I would never. If I was a boxer, there's no way that I would want him refereeing one of my fights if I was a promoter. Yeah, I mean, his name would be in the mud now anyway. So there's a reason why he said it when he's retired.
Saying that, you think he could get this Hall of Fame induction stripped because of this?
I doubt it. It's all water under the bridge in the past. But Harrington, you were going to say so. I can see you itching to chime in.
I am. So
chime away, brother.
He made the point that he, as a Filipino man, right? Manny Pacquiao was like, it was like God to them on the come up, right? Like, the entire country would shut down when he would go to fight. So for him, right, being a person in the Philippines, he was just trying to do everything he could in his power to help this guy. Do you think it makes sense to ever have how in the World Cup they have like French referees for Danish games and on? Shouldn't there always be like a neutral party in the judging and referee spots?
I mean, what you say logically makes sense, but what it becomes a case of is human integrity, whether or not somebody has it, and clearly he allowed his love, his passion, his admiration of his fellow countrymen get the better of him there, because you can't automatically assume just because somebody's from the same country that they're going to jeopardize their own integrity. You know what I'm saying? Like Mark Goddard, for example, he's a great referee. He's a fantastic referee. He referees many, many English fights. I don't think it's fair to sit here and say that, Mark Goddard, for example, I don't want this to get clipped and, Mark Goddard, for example, should never referee any Englishman's fights. Or Herb Dean should never referee an American's fights. You have to allow and give them the credit that they're due as men or women, as professionals, that they're not going to do that, For example, like, I don't know why this popped in my head. I mentioned the Matt Hamill fight before. When I fought Matt Hamill, it was a very, very close decision, and a lot of people thought he should have won. And it was like, it was the hometown judges, there was only one English judge. There was two American judges, which, so there you go. But anyway, but yeah, it could have gone either way. I was very lucky, let's be honest. But yeah, it's just down to the individual, I mean, they should have more integrity, and I don't think it's fair to then just label everyone as a potential cheat or as a potential, someone that's going to influence the outcome,
That's just crazy to me. This is somebody who had a literal Hall of Fame career who's admitting to doing this. So it's like it's so tough to trust anyone in outside of the two men who are stepping in there to engage in fair combat. But all right, so then maybe not as like a something on the referee or the officials, but as a fighter, would you be more suspect to taking a fight in a place like, you know what I mean? Like overseas, knowing that's the kind of treatment that people are getting in the Philippines when they fight a local guy.
I mean, again, you can't then, as a fighter, start saying, this guy's going to start, they do that in boxing more so than mixed martial arts in the UFC. I think you can, if you have an issue with a referee. I think I think there has been one or two cases. I can't think of one right now. Certainly can't think of any names, but if because the referee always comes into your locker room beforehand, tells you what they expect of you. And generally it's the unified rules of mixed martial arts, but each referee has a different way of saying what they expect, how they will warn you, what will be the course of action if they take a point. If you are, grabbing the fence or coming close to grabbing the fence, or if they're going to stop the fight, they will say, hey, fight back. You need to show me. So they will give you their specific criteria and the specific language that they are going to use if they are close to stopping the fight, So, and at that point, or even prior to that, if you have an issue with this guy, or if you've got some kind of personal grudge or encounter, then it needs to be raised there. But anyway, we're talking about boxing. Henry Cejudo has come out of the woodwork, and he's saying that the fight between him and Aljamain Sterling, in fact, it was Aljamain that came out of the woodwork. He's saying that fight's pretty much a done deal. I know they were at the PFL last week and they were squaring up. I'm just looking at MMA Junkie, seeing if there's any big breaking news. Didn't see that one in the notes, Harrington.
No, because I only saw Ali Abdelaziz saying that it was basically a done deal, and not anybody on Aljamain's side saying that. But
Right.
if
Well,
Aljamain is saying it now, then
yeah,
then
I'm quoting Aljamain. This is MMA Junkie here, the app. UFC champ Aljamain Sterling announces Henry Cejudo is the next fight that's going to happen. He goes on to say, I'm announcing that my next fight is Henry. We are targeting March, so I will say, Ali Abdelaziz, brother, it's done. And it's still not done until there's ink on the paper, you know what I mean? But it's done. It's done, brother, but it's still kind of not done. You know, this is the fight that's going to happen. And I did see the video, actually, of Aljamain saying that. And it's interesting. I thought Aljamain was really going to, because he was talking about not fighting until June or something. I thought he was going to try and really hold out for that O'Malley fight. Because in your opinion, what do you reckon? Who do you think would be a bigger pay-per-view draw right now? Henry Cejudo or Sugar Sean O'Malley?
I mean, it's tough because I don't know how many people of like Sugar Sean fans are necessarily buying the pay-per-views versus.
Good point.
But I don't know how many, like, it's just a generational thing. I still think O'Malley probably does bigger numbers.
Yeah. Which I was going to say it's crazy. It's not crazy. If you look at the body of work of Cejudo, it's insane. So that's why I was going to say it's insane, because Cejudo's clearly the more accomplished combat athlete. However, you know, in terms of, you know, when we're talking pay-per-view buys, it's essentially a popularity contest, right? How popular are you? You know, yes, the fighting comes into it. Of course it does. You know, the prospect of an entertaining fight, of a back and forth fight, of mixed martial arts at the highest level, of course that comes into the equation in a massive way, but also the popularity of said fighter. Sean O'Malley is ridiculously popular, but as you said, with a younger demographic, and we know those younger demographics, they like to fucking, they're handy on the internet. Let's just say that. My 12-year-old Lucas, my God, he's better on a computer than me these days. Do you know what I mean? I need to sort that out. Boomer Bisping coming in hard, but they're good. The younger kids, they're all about the technology. They know it like the back of the hand, you know. But Cejudo is a tougher fight than O'Malley. And I say that with maximum respect to O'Malley. Cejudo's, you know, 2-division champ, Olympic gold medalist in wrestling. And for Aljamain, that's his bread and butter. That's a lot of how he wins fights, using the wrestling. Will he be able to do that against Cejudo? Would O'Malley be able to stop the wrestling? I mean, that would have favored Aljamain, in my opinion. So I respect Aljamain here. You know, we know Aljamain gets a lot of shit off people. He does. You know, and he kind of embraced that heel persona, and he talks a bit of shit, and he's a little cringe at times, you know. But you've got to respect this. If he's willing to put it all on the line against Henry Cejudo in his comeback fight, because he could make it, you know, he was making the stance that he didn't deserve it, you know, that he's got to win a fight first and get established again. He could have taken that stance. But if he's saying, you know what, fuck it, let's go in March, Henry Cejudo, got to say, you got to respect Aljamain there.
Okay. I mean, point counterpoint. TJ Dillashaw, 36 years old, had a couple year break from the sport, came back, got one highly controversial win. That's his first title defense. Now facing a guy in Henry Cejudo, 35 years old, been out of the cage for 3 years at this point. And when he left, he was an up jump flyweight, you know, who was fighting guys, to be fair, towards the end of their UFC run, you know, in his title fights and title defenses. So this is another fight for Aljamain Sterling, where he's looking at an older fighter who's coming in with quite a bit of ring rust. And he might look at that as like a easier fight, being how much bigger, longer, rangier he is than Henry Cejudo.
Yeah, but hold on. That's not fair to. I understand what you're saying, you know, but at the time when Henry beat these champions, they were the champion of the world. That means they had beaten all the other opposition. So you labeling them as older, well, go on, you're shaking your head, but he beat Demetrius Johnson, who's still going strong.
Not arguing with that.
Still,
I'm talking about his bantamweight resume.
Yeah, and then he went and then he beat TJ. Oh no, TJ went down. TJ went down to fight him at 125. Bantamweight. Who did he beat to become the champ at bantamweight? Marlon Moraes. Was he the champ?
It was a vacant title because TJ left.
And then he defended against Cruz. This was 3 years ago. Cruz, you know, these are the top dogs. You know, I understand what you're saying. It wasn't them. Was it a 2016 version of Dominic Cruz? But they're still the top dogs. You know what I mean? You can't come up with hypothetical scenarios to diminish their resumes, Harrington.
I'm not trying to diminish anyone's resume. I'm simply making the point that this feels like a more calculated move by Aljamain Sterling than it's looking on its face. Because now another title defense under his belt going into the O'Malley fight, before he has to fight somebody who's a young up-and-comer.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not trying to shoot you down on purpose. I love debating. You know what I mean? That's what makes a conversation more important. That's why some people in the comments used to be like, "Oh, Bisping doesn't like it when Anthony disagrees." I've said this before. I literally used to say to Anthony before the show, and text him, "Anthony, please disagree with me as much as possible, because you get two sides of a conversation. You get a story, so you get a debate, and it's more interesting to listen to." But okay, you could give a little bit of credence to what you're saying, if we go along with that. But then as a counter, you could also argue that if he went after Sean O'Malley, that he's avoiding Henry Cejudo because he's the great wrestler, and he's going after O'Malley because he's tall, he's lanky, he's long, he can get in the legs easier, and O'Malley doesn't have the wrestling background, so therefore it's a tailor-made matchup. So from your logic, he's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. You know what I mean? So, listen, at the end of the day, God bless him. He's fighting Henry Cejudo. Cejudo's well accomplished. By the way, it's not inked yet, but if Cejudo wants it, if Aljamain's saying that he accepts it and wants to do it, it wouldn't surprise me if pretty soon we have an official announcement, because, Cejudo's still a big name in the sport.
Do you think they'll put the Cheeto versus O'Malley rematch as the co-main event for that?
I mean, whoa, that would be sensational matchmaking, marketing, and smart, just in case someone gets injured. You know what I mean? Because Cheeto, I was talking to him at the Apex. When was it? Last week or something? He's still waiting on an opponent. He's still waiting to find out who it's going to be. Obviously, that's probably trying to see how this all shakes out. But he's right there. And who doesn't want to see that rematch? Come on. I mean, in a perfect world, it would be Cheeto or O'Malley become champ, and then it's a defense for either man. That would be the ultimate scenario. Or it becomes a number one contender fight. So putting them as the co-main, I mean, that would be great. But it's a lot of small guys to sell a pay-per-view on. My God, what we're going to do? Stick some strawweight females on there as well. So UFC 242, the tiny end of the roster.
They tried that with UFC 238, and they did the best prelim numbers they had ever done on ESPN
I'm kidding.
Plus up to
I'm
that
kidding.
point.
I'm kidding. I do enjoy seeing the heavyweights go at it, though. You know what I mean? Or the light heavies. Go on.
That'd be fun. Make that the main event, co-main event, and then the right.
Here's a mouth-watering prospect. We're going to do a full card of only the lightest weight classes. What was that? So that was Pride. What was it called? Did you ever watch it? It was only the lighter weight classes.
Oh man, I don't know it's not jumping off.
Pride. Was it Bushido or something? Anyway, whatever. I forget. All right. I just want to tell you about Joy Mode real quick. Basically, Joy Mode, it's a it's a sexual enhancement product, but it is natural. A lot of the time you pull into the gas station, there's lots of this stuff available, but it's filled with chemicals and all nasty stuff. Joy Mode is natural. It's science-backed. It is a sexual wellness product for men. The sexual performance and booster. It's like a pre-workout, but for sex. The sexual performance and booster is designed to support erection quality, firmness, sex drive, clinically supported by all kinds of science that I won't bore you with, natural products, vitamin C, L-citrulline, arginine. I could go on for days, but you're not interested. Know this. It's full of vitamins, minerals, and it's natural. No nastiness. Also, no bad side effects. No walking around with a massive boner for the rest of the day. Take it, get the job done, and off you pop. Back to your normal day without being embarrassed, without tucking the old man into your belt, without looking like you've got, something in your pockets. So listen, give it a try. You're going to love this. Joy Mode, right? Spice things up in the bedroom and boost your sexual performance. Do it naturally without nasty prescription drugs. And of course, here we have a great offer for you. Use joymode.com/believe. That is the website. Use joymode.com/believe. Enter believe at the checkout. 20% off your first order. Use joymode.com. Put the joy back into what you're doing. Live up to your expectations. Show your partner that you are a virile, strong, sexually potent man. Use joymode.com/believe for 20% off your first order. What else have we got, Harrington? I have to go offshore. So it's a shorter show today. Apologies, we're squeezing this one in on a Friday. So Brian's going to do his best to get this up as early as possible. So get in, share it, like it, subscribe, all that good stuff. But Harrington, hit me with your best shot, brother.
Okay, how about this one? This is great news for me. Cain Velasquez has been issued an order by a judge that is allowing him to break his stay-at-home order and remove his GPS tracking device so that he can travel to his college alma mater's gym to participate in a lucha libre show at the beginning of December.
Amazing.
This actually, yeah. He has to pay for the police escort that is going to come with him to make sure that he doesn't pull a runner. But yeah, he is like he seems to be a model citizen, and they are letting him go to this thing here.
Yeah, there was also another development as well. I saw a judge. Oh, the civil lawsuit. I think civilly, Cain is suing the alleged sex offender, Mr. Bender. Come on, that should have been a fucking red flag right from the start. His name is Bender, for crying out loud. Bender. This is not a judgment call on Cain Velasquez, but if Mr. Bender, does Bender have the same connotation in the States as it does in the UK?
No, it doesn't. But contextually, you can piece it together.
Yeah, you can piece it together.
Yeah, a bender in the U.S. is like going out and being way too hard, like going out and getting yourself fucking halfway sideways.
No, yeah, but that's a bender in England. Yeah, you're going on a 3-day bender.
Yeah,
you know, I've been on many a 3-day bender, but a bender is also.
You've been on 3 days with a bender?
It's quite the ride. We got locked up in a hotel room in Tijuana. But no, you can go after him civilly as well. So, you know, obviously, all right, we shouldn't be joking about such a serious thing, and we're not saying anything too bad. But, you know, after that, I mean, let's be honest, it's just awful what Cain's family have had to endure. Obviously, the child in question, Cain Velasquez, you know, what he did, and then spending all that time in prison, and now rightfully he's out on bail. Justice will have to run its due course, you know, but at least he gets to be with his family in the meantime. The judges allowed him to still make a living, I think. All right, he's going to go pay for the police escort. That's nice, you know. They're compromising. You know, the man has been a model citizen, and he's allowed to sue Mr. Bender as well, which he should be. So, you know, it looked all doom and gloom for the Velasquez side of things for a long time there, of course. The main thing being what his son went through, or his, you know, the member of the family. Got to choose your words really carefully with subjects like this, you know what I mean? Because it is such a serious topic. But fortunately now it seems like, I think it's a new judge, isn't it? And this new judge certainly sees things from a different lens. It would appear, if it is a new judge, I'm sure it was a different judge that got assigned to the case. And since then, things are happening that seem to be more in favor of the Velasquez side, or not in favor, just looking at it with an open mind, you know, and rightly bloody so.
I mean, there was something I put in. There was something I put in the notes where it was like a guy pulled a gun on a woman, and he was out on bail on Monday. Right? He's on video pulling a gun on a woman, and he's out on bail that Monday. The fact that Cain had to rot in jail for 3 months is insane. But I did want to ask you this.
I mean, I don't know about that case, but just I was going to say, I mean, the guy pulled the gun. You know, Cain did go on a fucking shooting mission, which I don't blame him. I'd want to do the same. Do you know what I mean? But if you were a super strict
from a moving car,
yeah, you know what I mean. But who wouldn't do the same, you know? But what is that you're talking about? And by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I said, Harrington, no non-MMA. We've got a shorter show. We don't want to fill it with weakness and chaff. Let's cut the chaff. But what is that story that you're referring to there?
Okay. So a man was caught on camera. He was trying to, damn, I'm looking for the link in the notes and I realize it's not here and I feel like a buffoon now. I do feel like an absolute buffoon.
Quit the buffoonery, please, Harrington.
Yeah, so I don't know, Brian, if you want to try to look this up. A guy walked into a bar where his ex-girlfriend worked. They had been in a bit of an argument. He was like a legal process server or something, some kind of a lawyer. And they get into just a bit of a shouting match. Walks in, like puts his hands on a couple of people, draws a gun on her, and immediately the guys at the bar react, like, push the gun up away from him, tackle him, like a group of 3 or 4 guys get on him and prevent him from shooting his ex-girlfriend.
So he was going to pull the trigger.
Oh yeah.
Oh wow. Oh sorry, I thought you just meant he pulled a gun on her and like pointed at her for a second.
No,
shit.
He drew down on her, and then like the other patrons of the bar, like 100% saved her life.
I mean, that must have been a pretty serious argument. Do you know what I mean? Like me and Rebecca, now and again, we have a little falling out. Nothing too much. And generally, let's be honest, it's always my fault. Let's be honest, but I don't think either side has ever contemplated pulling a gun on one another. This is the thing, and I don't want to get into guns because it cuts the audience. But this is the thing that I always say. The problem is we all lose our temper. We all have, and listen, I'm not against you guys having guns. That's not what I'm saying. My only thing is that when tempers flare and there's a gun there, a device where you just pull a fucking trigger, your shit can happen. Yes, granted, you can do the same thing with a knife or a hammer or lots of things, But I don't know. Harrington, what's the worst argument you've ever had with Alex so far? Bearing in mind she's heavily pregnant. Oh, let's take a look at this.
This is actually video of it.
Oh. One more time.
Okay. He just goes into his bag right here.
The sneaky devil. But I tell you what, fair play to those guys, those patrons at the bar. They acted like that.
Mm-hmm.
They are heroes
for you.
Wow.
They know about guns in Texas. Like everybody in Texas assumes everybody else has a gun.
Yeah. Yeah.
An armed society is a polite society.
Brian's going to get even more love for that comment. What was I going to say? Oh, shit, man. But the thing was that made that so cold is that he walks in and he's, I don't know, because he's faking it, isn't he? He doesn't set out his stall straight away. He walks in, he's playing it cool. I don't know. He's maybe ordering a drink or something. And then he pulls it out of his little man bag and has a go. But the moment he pulls it out, fair play to those guys. They cannot be intoxicated because they acted so quick, Wow. You ever had a gun pulled on you, Harrington?
Never a gun pulled on me, thank God. No.
Yeah. I think just that one time. Yeah, in South Africa.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, in South Africa, when those guys fucking just pulled up in a car, jumped out of the car and stuck a fucking gun to my head and said, get in the car. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm not getting in the car. They're like, if you don't get in the car, you're dead. I'm like, pretty sure if I get in the car, I'm dead. Do you know what I mean? And then I've told this story before, but then I thought, I'm going to die. This is where it all ends. And I had my phone in my hand because that's how right? So I thought, I'm going to call Rebecca and say, I think I'm going to die. I love you. And then as it was ringing, I thought, that's a fucked up call to give. So I hang up, and as they've got the gun to my head, she's calling back. And I'm like, I keep hanging up, and she keeps calling back. And I'm like, fuck off, I'm kind of busy right now. But then all the homeless people that initially surrounded me before the car pulled up, they all started arguing with one another. And then the gun kind of like dropped a little bit, and they were arguing amongst one another. And I just went, here's my chance. Boom, pushed him as hard as I could. He went rolling down the fucking hill, and I legged it. That's an old one. I've told that story multiple times. So apologies. What else we got, bud?
Right. Let's see here. That's about it.
Yeah.
That's literally just about it. Brian, do we have any questions maybe?
Well, we do have questions, but we've still got a bit of time here. Let's have a look. Gilbert Burns, Magny just got booked. We got Conor McGregor, Artem Lobov, Paddy the BADDY. It's all Paddy. Paddy's dominating the news these days.
This is kind of a silly one. Alex Pereira posted a video of his wrestling training, saying that he is ready for this Hamzat fight based on the wrestling that he is doing in Brazil. What do you think about this?
Yeah, I saw this video yesterday, like some indigenous ceremony or something. Mm-hmm. It's cool, man. It's nice to see that he stays in touch with his old school Brazilian heritage, you know, but neither of these look Khamzat-esque. You know, Khamzat is quite the wrestler. I mean, as I said, you know, yeah, God bless them. They're having to roll around in the mud in what appears to be a grass skirt. Kevin Holland's main event this card, you know, here in Florida, he's an unbelievable fighter. Look at what Khamzat did to him, you know, and then styles make fights. Styles make fights. And there was that thing where Kevin went to touch gloves at the start and Khamzat shot underneath. But hey, I don't agree with it, but all's fair in love and war. You know what I mean? I'll tell you what, there was an interview that I saw of Jon Jones. This is quite interesting that I saw, I don't know, maybe on Instagram or somewhere yesterday. Jon Jones is talking about the potential fight in Francis Ngannou. He's doing an interview and he's got his dog fast asleep on his couch, on his lap. He's sitting on a couch and the dog's just fast asleep. John's just so chilled and he's talking about Francis and he says, and this is a very interesting take on Jon Jones fighting Francis Ngannou. He says, what is the worst possible outcome if I fight Francis Ngannou? He said, the worst possible outcome is that I get knocked out. That I get knocked out and maybe he breaks a bone in my face, like shatters my orbital. So worst possible outcome, I get my face broken and I get knocked out. He said, once you get comfortable with that scenario, it becomes kind of easily mentally. You know, it becomes quite freeing because the reality is that is the reality in a lot of fights, you know, and I've been there myself. He said, then after that, you know, when I start looking at all the other scenarios, well, I've got better head movement. I'm faster. I think I'm more athletic. I've got better wrestling. I've got better timing. I've got way more experience. I've got better cardio. I've got more experience going 5 rounds. I've got more experience judging my gas tank over 5 rounds. You know, I'm probably taller. I might have I'm similar height, probably got a longer reach or thereabouts similar as well. You know, he said, once I just become comfortable with the reality that the worst case scenario is that I get knocked out, which is ultimately a reality, a potential reality in every single fight that you have, then it doesn't seem as scary anymore. And I thought that was a very mature, honest, you know, thing for Jon Jones to say, and he's absolutely right. And when I heard that, you know, it makes me think of when I had the rematch with Dan Henderson, and granted Dan was old and I was old as well, you know, and I only had one eye, but Dan fucking hits hard. And I remember, like, you know, and I might have said this before, so apologies, but I was kind of, I was very nervous when I was in my hotel room because I'm like, shit, last time I stepped in a cage with this guy, I got put to sleep for a long time, you know, and then I was kind of on edge. I was snapping at my jiu-jitsu coach. I was just on edge and I was tensy. You know how you get sometimes. Probably not you, but me certainly. Certainly when I'm walking in.
Dude, pre-fight jitters? Oh, yeah, I know all about that.
Yeah. Pre-fight jitters. There you go. Exactly. Oh, you are fucking experienced. Let's be honest. Yeah, I don't blame you, Brian. That's the side of it that Brian can't stand with you. Whenever you start talking about being an experienced fighter, understanding the process, Brian cannot take it. Right, Brian?
It's really just a lot of hot air.
Oh, that's why when we do the live show, you gotta fucking slapbox it out. You can slapbox, I'll arm wrestle Anthony or something
sick.
Like that. I'm
this
gonna
is
do
sick.
Something. Yeah,
this live show is gonna be awesome. I did want to
left hand only. No, but I was being a dick with everyone, and then I was like, hold on a minute. What's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is I'm going to lose a fight. I've lost fights before. I'll probably lose them again. You know what I mean? And once I came to terms with that reality and I thought about it, going back to what Jones said, I was like, what am I doing? What am I so stressed out for? I've been here many times before. The sun will still come up tomorrow. You know, like people, when they're worried about a certain outcome, as long as that outcome isn't, you know, literally life or death or whatever, you know, once you come to terms with the worst case scenario, it really doesn't seem that bad after all. You know, the sun will still come up tomorrow. You know, you're still going to be able to get on with your life, you know? So, yeah, I thought that was a refreshing take from Jon Jones.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely incredible. Like I can relate to that in the sense of homelessness, right? Like that is most people's worst fear. And it's like, no, it turns out you wake up on a park bench, you still have to go live a full day. It's like, it kind of does stink.
Harrington, we've never really delved into this too much, but how, we've maybe not joked about it, but we've referenced it a few times and in a lighthearted manner. But how tough was that for you, being homeless? How long were you? Harrington, Brian's put in the notes, homeless by choice. But just all jokes aside, just delve into that for a second, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean, it was about 6 months. April 1st actually was my move out day from my last place, and I just had no money to get a new place. Especially like I was interning at the time for Gas Digital. I wasn't even like a paid employee there yet. So it was just one of those things where I was like, I want to do this so bad that I'll like keep coming into work, especially on this show, and just figure it out in the meantime. So it was like a lot of couch surfing, a lot of sleeping on trains, like in the subway itself, like on the E train, which just runs all night, the longest possible route.
Wow.
And it was just like there was the choice to move to South Carolina to be with my family, like to move back in with my parents, but then I would have to give up this gig, and I wanted to do this more than anything in the world. I went up to Ariel Helwani at the press conference for McGregor versus Alvarez, and I was like, dude, I'll get you coffee for a year, right? You don't even have to talk to me. I just want to work in this business so bad. And he wouldn't even take my resume. So to be here,
Helwani, big timed you. He big nosed you and he big timed you. Big Brian with a big comment.
It does help that Mike has some very successful friends for those couches that he was surfing on.
Yeah, I guess. But still, that can't have been easy. Cannot have been easy. Sadly, I got to wrap this one up in a minute. I've got some obligations. So if you do have some questions, which we're going to get to in just a second, bympod@gmail.com, please send them in. Monday, I've got a big show planned. Myself, Anthony Smith, Brian and Harrington. Hopefully a couple of big guests as well. Got a few big ones on the docket. Michael Chandler's on the scene. We've got Alexander Volkanovski coming up. We've got a bunch of big time guests coming along. Harrington.
If you are enjoying the show on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, make sure you subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, positive review. It helps out on those platforms. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel and you hit that notification bell to find out whenever a new episode drops. And if you're watching in the live premiere, hit that like button before you guys head out of here. Also, if you want to catch over 400 episodes you can't find anywhere else, ad-free and uncensored, head to gasdigitalnetwork.com. Use the promo code BYM. Get yourself a 7-day free trial and check out over 20 great shows on the network.
All right, Brian.
All right, so we got first question here from Cower Giannis. I believe I said that right.
Have coming at you from Leeds here. Originally a Clitheroe boy, so big up the Clitheroe Massive. Love you guys, love the pod. I'm going to Vegas next week to watch UFC 282. That's going to be my second ever live event. The first one was watching Mikey B beat Henderson 2 in Manchester. Awesome night. My question for you both is, as a spectator, what was your first live event? What was your favourite live event and why? Mike, love watching Tales from the Octagon in Manchester, boys. Appreciate the content. Peace.
Thank you very much, buddy. That's nice, and big up Clitheroe indeed. And Leeds, just on the M62 there. I don't know Leeds too well. I haven't spent too much time there. I've been there a couple of times. First live event. So I was on The Ultimate Fighter, January 2006. And then after filming, the UFC flew the whole cast out, because remember, The Ultimate Fighter was a huge, massive deal for the company back then, you know. And
save the company.
Essentially, according to the story, yeah. And I'm sure it did. So they flew all the cast out, and it was in Anaheim, funnily enough, which is where I live now. I live in Anaheim Hills, not in Anaheim, which is 20 miles away from Anaheim. Do you know what I mean? It's weird. And you go through Orange and some other cities to get there. At the Pond, what used to be called the Pond, now it's the Honda Center. Excuse me. And it was, excuse me, it was Tim Sylvia versus Andrei Arlovsky. I think that was the main event. There was Forrest Griffin versus Tito Ortiz 1 on there. And a stacked fight card. And I'd never been to a live event before in my life. I've never been to a UFC. Obviously, that was my first one. I didn't even know too much about the UFC, if I'm honest. I just knew there was this thing called UFC that you can make money fighting in. And then when I got there and I saw it with all the bells and whistles and the production and the crowd and the people and the cheer, I was like, wow. It just blew my mind. And yes, I was excited. I was a part of the UFC. I still had the final to compete in. The finale, as they call it, still had that, but I was like, this is in the bag, and holy shit. So that inspired me massively. Couldn't wait. What was yours, Harrington?
My first one, you were on the card versus Alan Belcher, UFC 159 in Newark, New Jersey.
Yeah, that's right. Alan, I was on the card. I was going to say Alan Belcher versus Huzamar Palhares. That was when I went and watched him in New Jersey as a fan. Yeah, that was me versus Belcher. Yeah. Oh, good stuff. 2012, I believe.
Something like that.
Yeah.
It was right after those two did 2013. It was right after they did the Ultimate Fighter against each other.
Yeah. Brian?
My first event was UFC 60. Matt Hughes, Hoist Gracie.
Oh, shit. That was in LA, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. What brings you down to Los Angeles?
UFC.
You flew to Los Angeles for the fight.
My brother was living out there.
Got it. Oh, look at that. Look at big time Brian coming in with the UFC 60 shout.
Yeah, you beat me.
What is the ooh?
Well, no, I was going to say the second half of it, coolest UFC experience you've ever had as a spectator. And I'm really excited to hear what that is from you.
Oh, I missed that part of the question somehow. What is my coolest experience as a spectator? Oh my God.
like your first card versus like the one that made you go like, holy shit, like just as a fan.
No, I get it. I understand the English language. I understood the words coming out of his mouth, but I'm trying to think of the answer. That was the holy shit part of it. Coolest thing. I mean, I'll be honest. It never ceases to amaze me. You know what I mean? I am still as enjoyable as a fan as what I was when I first started watching it. And my mind was blown then, and it still continues to be blown. I mean, some of the pay-per-view events are just sensational. That's why I can't wait next week. Is it next week? Yeah, next Saturday, the 10th. I'll be in Vegas with Rebecca watching that pay-per-view, and it's going to be so nice to just be in the crowd as a fan watching it. You know what I mean? Because it's great watching it at home. Being in the building is 10 times better, and watching it just from a fan perspective is even more enjoyable to a certain degree. Well, no, it's not. No, because when you're watching it, but then you gotta switch on and get right into work mode after it. Even when I'm at home now, it's kind of work mode, because then I'm doing my instant reaction videos on YouTube straight away. So I'm still doing it from an analytic point of view, as opposed to just losing myself in the moment and enjoying it, you know. But I don't think there's one that stands out, because every time it still blows my mind. I mean, when you're in the arena, I still get chills when you play Baba O'Reilly by The Who, you know, and the content of the shots, you know, they get updated. You know what I mean? It's not always the same highlight piece that they show. You know, I think maybe every year they update it with some of the latest knockouts and featuring some of the biggest stars. I'm so happy I'm still on that. You know what I mean? Because I, as an egomaniac, I still get such a fucking little buzz when it shows my little bit, me knocking out Rockhold or whatever. You know, but that gets the fucking goosebumps on me every single time.
Yeah, that production package is absolutely nothing like it. And I'll tell you, I do the same thing. Every year, like around this time of year, they put out the new Baba O'Reilly video for the next year. And I always check to see, like, wait, Bisping Rockhold still made the cut this year, right?
Yeah. I mean, I did have some other good ones. But, all right, listen, I got to go in a minute, sadly. I've got a meeting. So we've got one more question, please, Brian.
This one's an audio question from the dude.
The dude from the Big Lebowski.
Long-time listener, first-time caller. It's your buddy Nick Danger here. Just a quick question for you, gents. Wanted to know what your opinions were on the judges of the MMA communities and why we haven't seen more ex-MMA people getting into judging, maybe, or maybe them trying to pursue ex-MMA fighters to get into judging. I feel like it would be a little bit more transparent for the fans, and they would maybe have a bit more, validity, or, you know, they would have more pull, I guess. People would accept their decisions a bit more rather than saying, who the fuck is this guy that's never fought in a day of his life telling me that was a 10-8 round or some shit, you know? Yeah. Anyway, just wanted to hear what you guys thought about maybe some people like yourselves. It'd be awesome to see Anthony Smith or Mikey Boy there getting behind some judges' tables and getting some veterans involved. Yeah. Anyway, adios, amigos.
All right. No fuck Harrington on that one. How about that? You're winning them over, Harrington, at last. Well, listen, we do see some egregious judging. You know, first of all, I will say this. I will take my commentary position over being a judge any day of the goddamn week. If the UFC turned around and said, Mike, we're thinking about switching you off commentary and making you a judge, how do you feel about that? I'd be like, fuck no. But I mean, there's a lot of reasons. I mean, yeah, of course, fighters understand the sport, right? But I do think to a certain degree, and obviously we're talking about human integrity before as referees, it comes down to integrity, what I'm about to say. But a lot of fighters, they're close to the sport and they know people and they have relationships. So that is one slight issue. And, you know, again, you've got to assume that they would have integrity over jeopardizing said integrity to help out a friend, you know, so that's kind of a weaker point. But the judges, for the most part, they do a good job. And it is tough. And I know we do see some judging calls that are wild. But again, we had that seminar recently, you know, and the way they broke it down for us, pardon me, was interesting. And there's still some flaws, but the way they changed and scored the fights, it's a little more complicated than what you think. But they're always trying to improve it. But having fighters, it's a tough one. I mean, I'd like to see that. And maybe we will. We see fighters like, what's he called? Frank Trigg. He commentates some of the UFC fights now. Mark Goddard used to be a fighter. Problem is, a lot of these judges, they come from the boxing world, you know, which obviously this isn't a goddamn fucking boxing match. So that is an issue right then and there.
So there is precedent. I looked it up. Ricardo Almeida, when he retired, he immediately started judging on Bellator events, did a couple of the UFC events, has not judged the UFC fights since 2016, though.
Yeah, because he probably thought, I can't pay my fucking bills judging a fucking UFC fight here and there. I'd rather train the fighters. Do you know what I mean? You went from fighting to now judging. It's like, you know, the biggest demotion you could ever get. I'm main eventing Madison Square Garden. Next time we're back, you're at a judge's table you were making $5 million. Now you're gonna make 150. Are you cool with that? Oh, might go get a different job.
Okay, so I mean, realistically, there is, you know, and this might be a little unfriendly to whatever, but how do we get the judges paid just as much as the ring card girls, so that they have no reasoning to ever be bribed or throw a fight or have any inkling that they might lose this amazing dream job of judging MMA fights? Well,
first of all, you can't assume that they are being bribed, etc., etc. And those ring card girls, Harrington, do you think it's easy to walk around in a circle holding a number? Holding a giant card? No, listen. Before we
7-inch high heels?
Oh my God! I mean, when's the last time you rocked around in 7-inch high heels? Come on, with the fishnets on. Don't lie. It's hard. No. It's a real skill. Just messing. We gotta go. I gotta go. I'm late for my meeting. Guys, thank you very much. Subscribe, ring the bell. Harrington has a little thing for you. And I think this might be inspired by Anthony Smith having a lack of decor in his studio. But what do you want to say, Harrington?
We did have some people who wanted to send some stuff. If you do, send it to 151 First Ave, New York, box 311, 10009.
Okay, and just FYI, if anyone ever sends in a box of cash, I don't care who it's addressed to. That's mine. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the fights. Me and Smith will be back on Monday. We'll break down everything. We'll have a guest. But until then, be well. Take care.